Hello and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends and a guest have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog to distract themselves from the inevitable passage of time and their own rapidly waning ability to relate to the youth. I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
Oh, hi, I'm KaiserNeko. Hi.
Whoa!
Wait, who's that?
We do have a guest. Oh, I just said that because I was hoping to will one into existence, but here we are.
I've seeped in through the ceiling.
Yeah, I should get that leak fixed.
So he's a Terminator.
I'm an ex-Terminator.
Well, if you are an exterminator, I've got like an ant problem over here, if you could help out with that.
Oh, sorry, I hate bugs.
Oh.
Wait a minute. KaiserNeko in the ceiling. He's a ceiling cat. Remember that on the internet?
Oh my god!
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
That's
We
our
just
era
talked
of the
about our
internet.
rapidly winning ability to relate to the youth. You are not helping.
Ceiling the cat. New character. New OC.
Somebody's got to have done that.
Most likely.
Hey, the youth yearn for Ceiling Cat.
Ceiling Cat's best friend, suck the cock, right?
I was just thinking about that. Oh, does someone have that on the internet somewhere still? What a
I'm
Oh,
sure
it's gotta
Sonic
be.
OC.
it's got to be
That's
somewhere.
the best one.
Well, that's what we're here for, to just be old and talk about Sonic and remember when things were good, actually.
And thank you for indulging us in all three of those things, Kaiser. It is much appreciated.
No, absolutely. Also, Sonic used to be good. I'd love to hear this. Is this...
No,
We're
you
getting
see,
into it now, huh?
when I was a child, things were good because I was a child. Those are the rules.
Yes. You see, it's easy to break down the Sonic formula to the games that you played when you were under 12 are the good ones, and anything that came after is bad. And
before.
you should definitely harass the people that have a tiny bit in making them on the internet all day, every day.
Well, those are people that you can point out and be like, haha, you're an existing person. You're not some nebulous company that created this. I can bully you online. Hooray. So that's how it works.
So yeah, Sonic fandom very healthy right now.
Yeah.
Yay.
Right.
Well, speaking of Sonic's history, I would like to know, our guest today, Mr. KaiserNeko, what is your history with Sonic, if any?
You know, it's so interesting because anytime anybody asks me, hey, are you a Sonic the Hedgehog fan? I don't know how to answer that because the truth is I grew up...
That means you are a Sonic the Hedgehog fan.
You know, you're probably right, but the thing is I grew up with Sonic, right? And very aggressively, very intentionally. It wasn't something that was on passively. I sought out the Hedgehog. I loved the cartoons. I was a fan of both the regular Saturday morning, or the regular early morning and the Saturday morning. Although I have to say I was a bigger fan of Sat AM when I was a kid. I loved the games. When I finally got my Genesis, I played a ton of Sonic. Although I got my Genesis sort of like late in its lifespan, so I only got to experience like Sonic 2 and a bit of 3. Then I got Sonic CD, which was my favorite Sonic game, almost entirely because it had that cool opening.
Yeah.
The opening is so good.
Yeah, it's
That'll
kind of
get
remarkable
ya.
that we've never reached that peak again. I will argue we have never reached the peak of the Sonic CD opening again.
I don't think Sonic has ever been animated better than he has in that. Like, that was my, ideal Sonic moving in something that isn't the games, you know? There he is. So dynamic and exciting to look at. That's a hero, and he's a little pointy boy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's sort of like the Justice League Unlimited problem. That is now the Sonic that is in my head. It may not be it might not be the most accurate Sonic. It might not be the Sonic that most people like, but damn it, that's my Sonic. And then growing up, I kept up with Sonic as much as I could. I played as many of the games as I could, you know, Adventure 1 and 2. I never got the chance to play 6, weirdly enough.
Dodge that bullet.
Yeah. I played Unleashed and I didn't like it because I'm sorry, the Werehog segments just were not the gameplay I was looking for. Even if it was good, even if we're doing that whole like, oh, we're looking back on Sonic Unleashed and it wasn't as bad as we thought it was, it just wasn't the game I wanted as a kid.
Yeah, I think that my own thoughts are, yeah, the Werehog was tolerable by the end once you had done a bunch of upgrades and stuff, but it was not worth the time it took to do that.
Yeah.
I sure didn't do that because it was bad.
I also read a bunch of the old comics back when, since I was a kid, obviously it was the Archie stuff, and it was the early Archie stuff. It felt very much in the same vein as the Sat AM show.
Yeah.
But, besides that, I think it was about after Generations came out, I kind of stopped paying attention. Like, it got to the point where I'm like, yeah, Generations kind of feels like the last good Sonic game for me for the moment. And, I never played, like, Black Knight or the Arabian one.
Secret Rings.
Secret Rings, yeah.
Most of the people that say they really like those games haven't actually played them either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's mean.
And unfortunately...
But not inaccurate.
I'm sad I never played Sonic Colors, but that's because it was on a console I didn't own. I guess I could play it nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think mods have fixed most of the issues with that port, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that is the nice thing about most modern Sonic games is that eventually they get down to like $10-15 everywhere. So
Right.
if you're ever curious, you're like, oh yeah, that's on sale.
Yeah. Although in terms of modern Sonic content, I have, I've seen a lot of the recent stuff: Sonic Prime, Sonic Boom, the movies, the show, and unfortunately, I have not yet played Sonic Mania, and I need to get my ass on that.
God, you do. Like, if you like the classic games. Actually, you know what? It's just a great sort of, like, everything that's good about the classic games in one package.
Yeah.
Bit of CD in there, a bit of but just everything from there. It's lovely, and everyone should play it.
Although, what I say I haven't played it, I have played it. I played it a bunch when I visited a friend. I've just never, sat down on my own console and actually, all right, let's play the whole game.
I was just going to say, if you have Netflix, Sonic Mania Plus is available for free on mobile, and I've played with the touchscreen control so far. It works really well, and I'm going to sit down and connect a controller to my phone and try it, and I'm sure it's going to play beautifully. So
okay, yeah. I'm probably going to do it on the PC, but if I do have a couple of travel days coming up, so maybe I'll give that a try.
Yeah,
nice.
But yeah, so yeah, don't know if and after all that, still don't know if I'd call myself a Sonic fan. But
I wonder if it's because of stereotypes and connotations centered around the word fan of especially video game franchises.
Nah, I stopped caring about that sort of stuff a long time ago. I'll call myself a fan. Internally, sometimes I'll call myself a fan, and then when I'm around other people, I'm like, I actually kind of like it. Mm-hmm. But no, even for Sonic, it's just one of those things where I don't know if I've deserved the right to call myself a fan, because I feel like fans are people who are constantly looking forward to the new thing and trying it as soon as it comes out. I'm passively if it's good, I'll give it a try.
That's the legitimate term for it. But you can be a fan of anything, and you can not look forward to the new thing. In fact, you can be a fan of something and just constantly complain about things you don't play or look at all. Just be mad all the time.
So, okay, there's the difference, though. I don't care.
There you go.
That's why I don't consider myself a fan. I don't care.
Not caring is actually the first step to healthy fandomship.
Damn. I've got all these conflicting emotions. I'll have to reconsider.
Conflicting emotions is also the other part of being a Sonic fan.
But yeah, so since I just gave you a 10-minute introduction to my fandom for Sonic,
or lack thereof,
or 10 minutes saying how much I'm not a fan of Sonic. Thanks for bringing me on, you guys.
You're Sonic fan.
I need you to understand. I don't care about Sonic. Anyway, let's talk about Sonic for an hour.
Although it's so fun, it's funny to say that I don't care, and it's sort of true about the games. But when something comes out where I'm like, oh, that could be really cool, and then like with this first movie, right? I was really excited at the idea of a Sonic movie, and then I got very emotionally invested when that first trailer came out.
Oh boy, yes. And I'm sure by first trailer you mean the ugly Sonic Gangster's Paradise trailer that I remember someone leaking saying, basically describing the trailer, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a funny joke. Way to take the piss, random internet person. And then the trailer came out.
So I don't think I can implicate who this was at this point. It's been so long. I saw a leak of the trailer before the public did. Yeah, that was sitting on that was a nightmare. I'll tell you what, I was like, oh no. When, like, if they don't change this before it goes live, I don't know what's gonna happen.
No, I get it. Like, I played Sonic Forces at E3 months before it came out, and I'm like, I don't know if I should tell people. I don't want to break their hearts.
Well, okay. Officially, this episode, we are revisiting the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, the one from 2020.
The one that ushered in the pandemic, the one that killed so many people.
Established the Sonic universe and also caused COVID somehow.
I still will laugh every time at that meme of the edited Last of Us screenshot with the Sonic poster. I remember seeing this before the outbreak.
Or the Dr. Manhattan sitting on Mars. It's 2020. There's a global pandemic. I'm seeing a Sonic the Hedgehog movie in theaters. It's 2022, etc., etc. But before that one, I think was this your extra research for this episode, Luke? You have dove into some of the other attempts to make let's say a Hollywood Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah, a little bit. Like they had been trying to do this since 93, like mid-production of Sad AM and Adventures of Sonic. And like the idea always was, from my understanding, that they wanted it to be like they wanted Sonic to be a mix of like practical effects, animatronics and CGI, basically doing the Jurassic Park method, which, that could have gone one of two ways. And I really don't want to think about what that monstrosity might have looked like, but it is what it is.
But this was during, like, the time of those video game movies, so I can see why they wanted to try it. But oh boy.
Literally, like, Tom Kalinske, the CEO of Sega America at the time, was like, I don't know if this is a good idea because Super Mario Brothers has just come out. Street Fighter is coming out. Like, this does not seem like this could go real bad for us. But they pushed forward for a little while. I think it was MGM at the time who was working on it. And through finding different drafts of the pitches on eBay, we've gotten some looks at the story treatments for what they had in mind. And I am not exaggerating when I say that if these movies had come out, they might have been worse than Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, snap.
Don't be dunking on the Super Mario Brothers movie. If Dave Ballmer's going to be listening to this, though, he will always go to bat for that film no matter what.
Dave Ballmer says a lot of things. So the first one we know about, which we didn't find out about until literally last year when somebody found the treatment on eBay and did like a live reading of it, is just called Sonic the Movie. It is about a rebellious youngish boy named Jimmy Hedgeman, whose father was working on genetic experiments in a lab with limited funding. And Jimmy was accidentally mutated, and when his father was kidnapped by some thugs, Jimmy takes off to an island in the middle of a lake in South America to find him. But along the way, Jimmy mutates back and forth between his normal human form and the form of Sonic the Hedgehog, and he must join forces with a band of mutants on the island in order to defeat the evil Dr. Ellison.
Sorry, what?
Oh, boy.
I didn't stutter.
Yeah, see, so every once in a while, somebody will make up a fake pitch for a bad, like, late 80s, early 90s video game movie. And there are some times where I'm like, oh, this is too ridiculous. This is so over the top. And then you hear shit like this, and you're like, oh, so you know what? No, never mind.
Here's how I know it's real, though. A piece of the backstory is Jimmy's grandfather, a pilot who attempted to break the sound barrier but died in the process, and his jacket is worn by Jimmy.
At the time, they were obsessed with trying to get that in something, the fighter pilot backstory for Sonic, and I don't know why.
Sega of Japan was very insistent upon it at the time, it sounds like.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
Based on that pitch, in this year, 2024, oddly, I feel like like Adult Swim could pull that off.
It does. It sounds like oh geez, I don't even know what they're called now. I'm showing my age again. It sounds like a College Humor short that would
yeah, I could totally see this on Dropout.
What if the Sonic movie came out in the 90s? I have a hard time, even though I believe this pitch, like, I just have a hard time believing there was any way that this could have gotten past, like, maybe a few drafts, because what do you even do?
Yeah, no, this was apparently red line to hell, and they said absolutely not. The fact they didn't even have Robotnik in it was a big point of contention. Although I do find it funny that this is the second instance of Sonic being a superhero alter ego, except the other one was way more endearing.
Good old Nicky the Hedgehog.
In the rarely seen Koro Koro comic. But no, there was another. They went back to the drawing board. The second pitch they had was something called Sonic the Hedgehog Wonders of the World. Again, this feels like I am 100% convinced that this is real because this sounds exactly like something that I would see in literally any other video game movie of that era. I'm just going to read a little bit of the plot summary here. Josh Pinsky, a 12-year-old son of a divorced couple, is presenting his incomplete school paper about a historic event he was tasked to write about. The unamused teacher warns Josh to finish his paper by tomorrow or face being referred to by his parents. After school, Josh goes home to an apartment owned by his father, Hal, an unemployed computer scientist who is doing research for his grand invention, a supercomputer called the XRI, Extremely Radical Intelligence, that possesses artificial intelligence with the ability to project virtual reality. After dinner, Hal leaves to gather research on a piece of hardware, leaving Josh with the XRI. A curious Josh encounters the XRI and, after being unable to get it to help finish his schoolwork, hooks up his Sega Saturn to play Sonic Extreme.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no!
Oh man.
Oh.
At that moment, Sonic, the game's main character, discovers he has a will of his own and stops responding to Josh's controls. Josh manages to hack into the computer to bring Sonic out of the video game, becoming a 3D character capable of interacting with reality. Josh and Sonic form a bond with each other, but Sonic's departure from Sonic Extreme causes him to lose power as time goes on, and he ends up causing trouble throughout the real world, destroying Josh's apartment and causing car wrecks throughout the city. Meanwhile, Dr. Robotnik and his minions inadvertently escape the game and look to take over the real world, and Sonic is unable to stop him due to his draining powers.
Well,
That's about as on the nose for a 90s video game movie as I can think of.
Yeah, that's...
I think if you Google this title, some of the images are fan-made posters of a Sonic render, either from Sonic Extreme, the few we got, or Sonic Schoolhouse, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Man, I can only imagine the worst pre-Toy Story level, just a bunch of circles and shapes Sonic character running around this movie.
Yeah, but it's nice to know that the screenwriter of Mega Man Upon a Star is still getting work. It's not, but that is the exact same premise.
Oh, yeah.
You got me for a second now. In a moment.
By the way, it is remarkable how similar that was to Last Action Hero.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, as I was listening to that, and by the way, I want to say this now because I guess I could say it later, but this is kind of feels like the perfect place to say it. Making adaptations of cartoon or video game characters where they come into the real world is awful, and it needs to stop.
Yeah.
I want it to stop so badly.
Well, I mean, I did rewatch Who Framed Roger Rabbit before this, so...
See, Roger Rabbit did it better than all the other ones do.
No,
so
it's true.
They need to stop trying.
They set the bar too high with that one film, and everything else has been trying to catch up and failing.
Yes, but Chris, if I could offer a counterpoint, Sonic Live.
Oh, man.
The reverse.
No.
Honestly, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie I would want to make that nobody would ever let me is Sonic comes into the real world, but it's a deep character study about how he realizes he's actually hated and mocked in the real world, and seeing the extent of his fandom and having an existential crisis, and also Dr. Robotnik builds a robot or something. I don't know.
Okay, listen. Sonic already makes me sad, okay? I don't need something that's Sonic intentionally trying to make me sad.
Yes, but now I need to make everybody else sad the way I am.
It's a different kind of grimdark.
Sonic's Bojack, Sonic's Birdman. Oh, Bojack Horseman, excuse me. I forgot present company.
Man, now I'm just... Okay, that would be a dorkly skit. Sonic the Hedgehog, but done in the style of Bojack Horseman.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanna loosely like that fan animation / song, Sonic crushing in his 30s is kind of that concept, except like nicer than you would expect.
Well, BoJack and Sonic were both big in the 90s, and then it was all downhill from there.
It's true.
Oh man, unfortunately, speaking of Sonic Live, I think we at least have to pay lip service to the one that we know of. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, animated Sonic movie pitch.
Technically two, because one ended up superseding the other for incredibly shitty reasons. The story, as I understand it, is that at one point, this would have been late 1990s, Ben Hurst, longtime writer on the Sat AM series, basically was not able to do like a conclusion to the show in Archie. So he's like, maybe we can do this as a movie. And he was, trying to pitch the idea of basically concluding Sat AM with a movie. He got put in touch with the Sega executive. There was talk around the idea. Unfortunately, somehow one Mr. Ken Penders was alerted to Hearst's plans, and even though Hearst was like, here's my pitch. If you want to get looped in, it's totally fine. Like, I'm happy to bring you on. Penders allegedly told Sega that Hearst was trying to co-opt the franchise, leading Sega to dismiss Hearst and his proposal.
That sucks.
And then in September 2003, Penders pitched his own concept for a movie called Sonic Armageddon.
Oh my God.
And thankfully, that one did not go anywhere either. It was dropped in 2007 because of like shakeups at Sega of America, including the executive who was behind him not being there anymore. So that's what could have been and what I'm glad wasn't.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, we got the Sonic OVA though. Those are fun.
Yeah.
That's technically, I mean, they call it Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, but it's two things that they slam together.
Yes.
Americans are too dumb to understand the concept of an OVA, so
Yes.
we just call it the OVA's movies.
I still wish that the original plans to put both parts of that on Sonic Mega Collection actually came together.
That would have been good.
Incredible.
That would have been insane.
I know. It would have been, didn't we discover it? It would have been a subtitled version. Like, it would not have even been dubbed. Like,
oh my God.
What?
That would have changed the course of history.
I don't know if it was for sure subbed, but you look back through those prototypes that were found, and right there in the video gallery, Sonic OVA, which was created in Japan, Part 1 and Part 2. And I think that OVA would have a lot more mind share in the current day if that had actually gotten included in there.
God.
Man. Just compressed MPEG video.
Thinking about when we were talking about how great Sonic Mega Collection is on its own, and just imagining having that as well. Oh boy.
Kind of feels like it would be a must-have for any Sonic fan then. Like, even more so than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mainly for the music. The menu music that plays when you're looking at the Archie comics.
But yeah, the movie we have now wouldn't really get started until Sony picked up the Sonic rights in 2013. It was supposed to stay with them for a good while until I believe Paramount picked up the rights from Sony in 2017 after Sony had put them in turnaround. But the big thing about this is that they had Marza Animation Planet, who is like the Sega animation studio that does all the CG cutscenes for all their stuff, including Sonic. They were involved. And then the other studio they got involved was Blur Studio, founded by, Tim Miller and one of the animators, Jeff Fowler, both of whom worked on the cutscenes for Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06. So there is literal Sonic DNA in the creative team, which I think actually went a long way to, like, at least after a couple of revisions, helping the movie look as like accurate to the spirit of Sonic as it is. Because we have to talk about that first trailer.
Oh boy, oh golly, oh geez. Well, it's not like we were unused to seeing bad versions of characters in modern films. I mean, Paramount had just done like the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, and
oh boy,
golly, oh gosh, remember those guys?
I try not to.
I mean, it's so crazy that it really did just look like one of exactly like one of those movies. You know, the like we've already said, the cartoon or video game character is in our real world, but Sonic looks like the dang live action Smurfs, looks like
I would say
bunny from Hop.
He does look what I rewatched the Smurfs not too long ago in preparation for this. I'm like, well, at least they resemble the Smurfs in some way. They're hideous, but they've got their designs.
You can count every pore on their face.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of a plug. Sorry.
Please.
I actually did a video called Sonic Doesn't Belong in Live Action. And I probably wouldn't have named it so inflammatory. I would probably call it Does Sonic Belong in Live Action? But whatever. During that video, I actually talked about the concept behind those designs. And when it came to Ugly Sonic as we know him now, that was how do we imagine this creature in live action? What does he look like if he were born of our world with all of our biology, etc.? And that was always a terrible idea. From the ground up, there was no version of that wasn't going to look hideous. Because Sonic is not a creature that is supposed to look realistic. He's as they call him, a fairy.
Mm-hmm. Or a funny animal. He's a Mickey Mouse, literally.
Yeah. He's a fucking cartoon or a video game or both. Yeah, no, it was a bad idea from the start. And so what they ended up doing was trying to find what I called the best of both world designs after that.
Mostly attributed to character designer, now executive producer for the entire Sonic cinematic series, longtime Sonic artist Tyson Hess. And I like the new design. I will say every time I see someone in the a tie-in comic or on a piece of merch, I always prefer it as a 2D illustration. And, you know, again, I'm not going to the mat saying revisiting this cute children's movie that I actually enjoyed watching to revisit for this episode, but they should have gone further. I agree with you, Scott. He should just be a cartoon. There's no reason he can't wear the gloves and the cartoon shoes and have the big shiny mono eye. I'm saying they should have gone further, but yes, I understand how they arrived at this redesign compromise because it is a compromise.
In that regard, though, I don't know if we want to talk. Do we want to talk more about the original trailer? I feel like there's nothing to say about that trailer other than Gangster's Paradise. Why? In what world?
That's all they were thinking, I think. And they're just hey, kids, remember this thing from the 90s? Well, here's another thing.
You're right. It was just it's 90s, wasn't it?
Hey, remember Jim Carrey from the 90s? Here he is.
Yeah. It's not even 90s rap or hip hop wouldn't be appropriate for Sonic, but why Gangster's Paradise?
Right?
Maybe a little something more upbeat.
Hey guys, did you see the Chip and Dale movie? Did you see it? Did you see that it was in the movie? Wasn't that funny? Wasn't that funny? Laugh.
Speaking of following after Roger Rabbit, Jesus Christ, that.
Yeah, no, I made a video on that movie. I was too kind. I was way too kind.
Yeah, I've actually never watched it start to finish because I remember when it came out, lots of people in my social circle was like, well, it was okay. And then just recently I've seen people, it sounds like rightly have turned on it saying no, that movie's fucking mean and it sucks. And I'm okay.
I think I went from okay to in the span of about 12, 13 hours.
Oh. I need to not let people influence my perspective. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were liking it, so I'm maybe I'm the one who's just being too mean. No, God damn it.
Follow your truth.
I get what you mean. I do. I mean, there is a good balance between well, this person who is my friend, or at least I trust their opinion liked it, I'll give it a chance, versus, even if you're well, I like this person, but our tastes don't align. I'm yeah, I don't ever have to watch that.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that applies to some of these Sonic movies as well, if we want to steer it back to.
I do want to talk about the redesign for a moment.
Oh, yeah.
So,
go right ahead.
So that redesign, and I also talk about this a little bit in my video. So the redesign, as I called it before, was sort of like that best of both worlds, where it's still real, like you don't have the monosclera. So it's two distinct eyes, which if you're going to make a creature that looks, like it's of this world, you still have to do that. But the problem ultimately I ran into was, while I was watching the movie, it unfortunately did have that effect of, that's not a real creature. Like, nothing looks like that, nothing could look like that. And I get the idea of like, oh, well, it's from another reality. And I'm like, what reality? A reality where video game characters exist?
Yeah.
And that is sort of the problem. They did literally just put a video game character in the world. Honestly, they don't commit to it. There's this weird like uncanny valley that you're in of, this is a video game character, but we don't say it's a video game character. And it kind of throws off the vibes. It threw off, like, I'd never felt immersed in the movie, because every time I looked at him, it's like one of those Unreal, we rendered Sonic in the Unreal Engine. That's what it feels like.
Nintendo hire this man, Mario, running in the default environment. Yeah, and it's like you said, he is an alien. He is not from Earth. They go out of their way to say, well, yeah, he's not even from here. So again, like, why not push it even further? Like, I see what you're. I completely get what you're saying.
Just like let people buy into, do the Roger Rabbit thing of being like, well, he's just another creature for that, and they just exist, and just so he can look like that. Because if you commit to the bit enough, then the audience will probably go along with it a bit better.
I really do wonder, like, with the movies that came after, like Sonic 2, as far as having things tangentially related to the video game, is like such a increase over this first movie.
Yeah.
And it appears that they are also going to be doing that with Sonic 3. Like, we don't know for sure. That I wonder if, because the first movie was considered a success, I think this movie is okay enough, but is it the only kind of Sonic movie we could have gotten in 2020? Or was it just the one that we settled for?
Yeah. I think, the part of it is that first trailer. And, we settled for it and we were okay with it. And I in hindsight, I can see this for myself as well, because we saw how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
Suddenly we had this one that's like, okay, he's a bit more charming now. I'm actually in the... and you know what? I've got goodwill for them now, I guess I might as well. It's not the movie I wanted, but at least they made Sonic look awful now.
And I'll say it again, what we got, way better than Jimmy Hedgeman.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we mentioned the Smurfs, we mentioned other movies like this, because this is a genre. And in fact,
the road trip with a cartoon character genre.
Yes, starring James Marsden.
At least one of those exists as well.
Which I listened to the commentary, which is director Jeff Fowler and Ben Schwartz, and when Marsden shows up on screen, they literally said they pitched him an audition because he's made movies like this before.
They went through a couple of different people they were looking to play Tom. Like
Chris Pratt was going to be one of them.
Yeah, Chris Pratt was on the list. Chris Evans was on the list. I think the earliest one I had heard about was Paul Rudd.
Yeah, interesting.
Kazuma Kiryu himself, Paul Rudd.
Yeah. They're like, oh, this guy made a Super Nintendo commercial. We need to get him to play for the enemy.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I did not watch the movie. I think I saw a clip going around, but of Hop, the Easter Bunny movie with Marsden and Russell Brand as the bunny rabbit, and Marsden's character's girlfriend or wife is fawning over, oh, what a cute bunny, and picks him up and hugs him, and where Marsden can see him, sniffs her hair and strokes her shoulder, and I'm like, man, this Sonic movie could have been worse. Not just ugly Sonic, but shit like this.
I honestly, the deleted scenes where Sonic tries to bed Maddie, I'm kind of missing them.
He wanted to find out why she's called Pretzel Lady for real,
Hey.
Bringing back the aspect of Sonic from The Adventures of Sonic, where he's just horny all the time.
Aggressively compelled heterosexual Sonic.
Yep, that's the one.
You know, it's funny. It says plot summary. Do we need that? Do we need that? Do we need to go over this plot of this movie? I feel like if anybody's watching this, we don't, right?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just wanted to, the vibes. What are some parts that stuck out?
We can speed through it.
Good and bad.
It is something that in the year 2020, they did that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here thing without a hint of irony.
And I'm pretty sure that was not going to be in the original version of this, because I feel like this movie was going to, based on the deleted scenes I've actually seen, the real ones, not the ones with Sonic bedding.
Yeah.
There's a whole there's this whole scene where you don't see Sonic to begin with. There's where Crazy Carl is out in the forest trying to catch him, and I feel like that was going to be the start. They were going to build up to the first appearance of Sonic. But instead, they were just gotta hook the kids in early, I guess.
Yeah.
That's literally what the director on the commentary says, is that they had at one point a version where you didn't see Sonic for a long time, then got his backstory, and they basically said, this doesn't work, it's boring, kids want to see Sonic. And, as silly as like you said, that's me, I kind of agree, the in media res, there's Sonic, and he's doing the thing we want him to see, he's running from Robotnik.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that means the scenes that are on Green Hill Zone, the actual Green Hill Zone, were a late addition. Because I know stuff like that has happened before. I immediately think of how Bumblebee added those scenes on Cybertron.
Oh, you're right.
Test screens.
I do think they were there because there are early clips of ugly Sonic, very low poly ugly Sonic on a very low poly South Island. Because there is the early version of this where Longclaw doesn't get separated from him. She joins him on there, and he's a baby Sonic running around there, and then she dies of old age, and it's really sad to start this movie about Sonic.
No, instead we just, end with her being killed off screen.
Yeah, we never saw a body. They have an out.
It's true.
Same with the echidnas, I guess. Knuckles show sure did talk about them all being slaughtered. I was going to say, that is so weird seeing, Patrick Kamak, in his full mask, shooting the arrow and everything, very, stoic and, dangerous and everything, and then jump forward 4 years and Christopher Lloyd is flying away while bumping into a window.
I hate the Knuckles show. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. We have pulling the curtain back for the viewers at home. We've already recorded our episode of the Knuckles show, and we won't spoil it, but it's a weird one.
Yeah. I will say I really appreciate Friends from Hyper Potions getting there right during those flashback scenes. I will take any, actual game music being worked into these things because there's not a lot of it.
Sure isn't.
Actually, that's one thing I want to say about the movie before we continue on it. Man, where's the Sonic music? You really couldn't have orchestrated more. There's one or two tracks and otherwise it's just Generica. What the hell?
You literally paid to license the soundtrack from Masato Nakamura because Sega doesn't actually own those songs. Why not use them?
I don't know. That has always been something that has blown me away, is that for a series from the beginning that has been very, very much defined by its music, that there's literally almost nothing in here. Yeah, we got the stinger of Green Hill. That's it.
Maybe they just really wanted to own the soundtrack, to have their own soundtrack And to be fair, some of the tracks are okay. They've got a pretty serviceable Robotnik theme in this one. I like that Robotnik always has good themes. But aside from that, it's really forgettable. Yeah. I had to, when I was creating the Who is Sonic collection of Sonic themes medley, I had to search out what Sonic's theme sounded like in this because I didn't remember it. I was like, oh yeah, it's that thing. Okay.
Here's the thing. It's bad in this one. If we do not hear you know what in the third movie, there will be riots in the streets.
I keep waiting for it to happen, and
they had a little bit of it in the teaser trailer, so that gives me hope. But they also had Emerald Hill in the Sonic 2 teaser.
I know
that didn't happen. So
we keep going back for our hopeful dopamine shots, and we just get punched in the face.
I mean, we'll say one thing for the Mario movie: as much as I don't like it, they give you Mario music all the way through.
Even if the studio doesn't want them to.
It is. Oh, man. It's crazy. Yeah, we could talk about the Mario movie too. But
actually, you know what? Yeah, I just remembered. Oh yeah, all of those needle drops.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, those are the most. Anyway, not Mario movie. We're not talking about the Mario movie. We're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. It all comes back to Mario.
Man, did you hear that Donkey Kong track that got cut out for Take On Me?
Yeah. Yep. Studio executives need to be redacted.
Yep. I realize that, they are doing their own sort of thing with the backstory, the origin for Sonic, which I think is probably the right call, because the quote unquote origin of Sonic has been so nebulous throughout the history, and there's been so many different variations of it, that I think that doing something, completely original was the right decision. And, I can buy Alien from Another World that has been living in secret on Earth. It's Sonic X, but Sonic hangs out with a cop instead of the 1%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I do have to say, I hate putting Sonic in the real world in the first place. But specifically, it's the worst in live action. Because like I said, you're putting him in literally the most boring possible scenarios here. When I was watching the movie, I knew I was going to get a bunch of dumb human antics. More than I expected. Less than I could not tolerate. I will say that. I still like this first movie well enough. But I don't like the idea of Sonic being around a bunch of humans in the first place, and making it live action really just emphasizes how it doesn't work very well.
I'm not a big fan. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, I didn't even like Sonic X all that much. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but it's got some good stories and it's got some good moments. And I'm like, yes, I could not give less of a shit about Chris Thorndike. I could not give less of a shit about James Marsden. These people are not why I'm here. I don't care about their lives and their struggles. I care about Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog. When I was a kid, I was a kid when Sonic X was being advertised. And the moment I saw the kids, I was like, no, don't do this. I don't want that.
That does remind me of the first time you see a trailer. I think it was this Japanese trailer for Sonic X. It's like, oh, look at all the Sonic characters. There's Sonic and Tails and Rouge and Knuckles.
Blue Lightning is fast.
Blue Lightning is fast, and Dr. Eggman, as they pronounce it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, and here is Chris, Danny. I'm like, what? Who? Where? And then just these humans pop out of nowhere. I'm like, oh no, I don't do that.
Yeah, incredibly.
I'm just not a fan.
No, and then it's funny. When I was playing Sonic Unleashed, I was like, oh, hey, they've really stylized all of the characters to kind of make them look more Sonic-y.
I love those designs.
Yeah, though, honestly, in my video, I kind of breeze over the fact that the best human designs in all of Sonic to me were in Sonic Unleashed. Because they're so creative and funny, and they look like they belong next to Eggman.
Yes,
It's like, oh, hey, you got the idea. These shouldn't look like normal-ass human beings. They should look like fucking cartoons.
They learned something from 06, that's for sure, where they decided, we're going to overcorrect so much, we're going to make Eggman look like crap. Because,
I will always stand Gurihiru character designs. I've been a fan of theirs since the Avatar comics, and they were firing all cylinders for Unleashed.
Yeah, they really knocked that out of the park. It's, for me, I cannot stand putting him in the real world. And especially considering the fact that, okay, so we're doing this origin story, right? And I like the owl concept. I everything. Oh my God, everything up until where he gets to the real world. I'm like, this is interesting. I kind of like this. The echidna are hunting him down. he's living with this owl lady. Like, the owl lady's new, but I can get over that. It's fine. It's whatever.
It's one of those that's technically like a deep pull from Sonic lore. If you go back to, what is the one like old Sonic Bible that mentions?
It's actually just in Stay Sonic.
Yeah, in Stay Sonic, they mentioned Sophocles the owl or whatever.
And I think it's more of a nod to like the owls, the owl faces in Labyrinth Zone. I feel that's what they were going for with the owls. But that's about as close. They just needed a.
And then we got another owl in the OVA.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old Man Owl.
Yeah, we did.
We're big fans of Old Man Owl here.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Like one of two Sonic characters I can voice.
But then we get to the real world, and everything just becomes a family movie. A rote family movie of, here's James Marsden and his out of his league wife, and they're living in this small town, and like now they've got to solve the problem while Dr. Robotnik is after them. And it's like, this feels like a compromise between like an actually good Sonic movie and the kind of shit that you were mentioning earlier from the 90s. Like, with what was it, Jimmy?
With Jimmy Hedgeman.
Yeah, with Jimmy Hedgeman. This feels like the middle ground. And we need to stop taking the fucking middle ground on this. Make an actual Sonic movie, because the thing that I will never get over, and this still bothers me to this day, and I don't know why, maybe I'm the asshole, but Sonic getting his iconic shoes from a little girl that he's never shared more than one line with sucks. That sucks.
She just
At least
had
they're
those
good shoes
handy.
now. They're not the ones from the terrible post. Oh God, do you remember the poster with his legs?
Poster?
Yes.
Human legs.
Oh, I don't like it.
Gross legs.
Oh, boy.
Well, Scott, you can look forward to that little girl being the one to help Shadow become a good guy again in the third movie.
No, it's going to be Wade Whipple. He's going to come in there and save the day.
But the little girl's going to have the air shoes. Shadow has to earn them.
And then, just to kind of put a fine point on that, they redo the same thing in the Knuckles show, where Knuckles gets his hat from Wade, who won it from a fucking, like, dirtbag.
From
the guy from
Mighty Boosh.
Yeah. Like, stop giving Sonic characters their iconic clothes in the most mundane, lame way possible. I'm begging you. You could do something cool and interesting. You can make their part of the design actually mean something, and you don't. You fucking don't. Stop it.
Look forward to movie 3 when Amy gets her hammer from a crane game.
Oh, Luke. Amy's not going to be in the third.
You're
Certainly not. Thing is, I get it. Like, it's a live action movie. They insisted on making it live action, so they've got to put so much focus on the human characters so they don't run out of money. Like, I get that. And personally, like, I'm with you, Scott, a lot of the time. I'm not a big fan of humans in Sonic. I feel that there are some really good Sonic with human stories. Like, I enjoy Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, of course. Everyone loves that Maria stuff.
Yeah.
But I do prefer, like, Sonic in Sonic's world. And also, it's good and not Sonic Prime.
But that's technically not in Sonic's world, so it doesn't count.
I think Sonic X is complicated, but we do stand Topaz, Rouge the Bat's girlfriend.
Yeah, we do. I do feel like, just by virtue of being live action, making one of these was the only way this movie was going to get made.
Sadly.
Yeah. I do want to interject and say, I think part of what does take the sting out of this movie being is what it is that I think it started around this time. I can't remember when I guess it was Team Sonic Racing and Sonic Mania Adventures. We have been getting beautifully animated, I'll just say Sonic Shorts, official Sonic short form animated content from the folks at, I can't remember the studio at the moment, but
they've done a couple different studios like Powerhouse.
I think Powerhouse is the one that comes to mind. But yes, like tie-ins for Sonic games. We got the prequel to Sonic Frontiers featuring Knuckles. They just announced recently a Shadow the Hedgehog animated short that is premiering with coming with Sonic Shadow Generations. And I guess that is my ultimate, like, hey, what do I want from Sonic? I want the people that make those to be able to do a like either a series or a movie length there. But then I don't know what kind of nightmare production that might be.
The problem is, this is Hollywood, isn't it? And they're trying to like market this to as many people as possible. They are relying on the Sonic name, but they know that to sell that, they don't necessarily have to give you like a Sonic experience. They just need to hit those things that people know about Sonic. Because unlike with Mario, so many people have played Mario, they know who Mario is, they've got a basic idea of Mario. I recently asked on Twitter, like, my followers, like, hey, non-Sonic fans, what do you think of when you hear the word Sonic the Hedgehog? And some of them gave me really inappropriate answers, and that's understandable because it's the internet. But mostly it's stuff like, Sonic, Blue Hedgehog, Fast, Chili Dog, Speed, Robotnik. Like, some people still like call him Robotnik, and I guess that carries over here. Green Hill Zone, the title screen. There you go. So I guess they wanted to hit those things, and as long as they had that, they could tell whatever story they wanted. But, they do that. They do that, and they did license out a little bit of Green Hill Zone, so you've got one thing that you recognize.
I think I was joking before we started because we were riffing on the Knuckles show, but I genuinely do think like, hey, my parents enjoy these Sonic movies and know the Sonic things in them because, hey, my dad used to play like multiplayer Sonic 2 with me, so he knows what a Emerald Hill or a Green Hill and a Robotnik is. I know it gets thrown around a lot, but this movie does feel very four-quadrant-y as far as being little kids, Sonic fans, old, kids' parents, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the ultimately both, the movie's strength and its weakness is that it has to appeal to everybody. So it is a lot easier for it to get that casual audience, but that does mean that we as people who know Sonic really well are going to, not everything's going to land.
And I do feel that the people making this were passionate about this project.
Oh, 100%. Like,
yeah,
you do not name a baseball team, like the rival baseball team Spring Valley, after the first level from Nights into Dreams if you are not as deep in the weeds as we are.
Well, okay. I will say this. There have been times where I have done research on a project that I'm working on, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's really obscure. I'll use that. So that is not immediately an indicator. There are a lot of other things that'll really show you whether or not they care. And I think part of that just has to, actually does come down to the fact that the film is genuinely well enough made. Like, it is not a bad looking film. It is not it's hard to say whether or not they cared that much about Sonic, but they did care about making this film, I feel.
The director for sure cared, just because, again, he has history with Sonic, so
right.
That's.
At the end of the day, they had a story they wanted to tell. And yes, it's probably a story we've heard thousands of times at this point, but it was their story and they were going to tell it, and they did, and they've, for better and for worse, it's there. And I don't feel like they just had, okay, we need to hit these points and make a story after and write a script around it afterwards, like the Mario movie. I feel like there was actually a case of they're like, okay, this is the story. These are our human characters. Our human OCs do not steal. We love them, and we'll fit Sonic in here somewhere.
Well, and so, speaking of human OCs, you want to know what the Knuckles show really taught me?
What's that?
Jim Carrey carries every human component, all of it. Without Jim Carrey, it's rough, man.
we do. I feel like we do need to spend some time talking about Jim Botnick because, oh my god!
Oh yeah, you gotta talk about Jim Botnick. I like that. I'm going to use that.
I really don't. Even though, every time I sit down to think about Jim Carrey really does work in this movie. Even if in the second movie, I think a lot of his biggest jokes fall flat. But then when I think of oh no, this would not have worked without a equivalent actor in the role of Robotnik. And I honestly cannot think of, unless they completely change their approach, like, you know, I don't bring in Danny DeVito to play a very screen accurate classic Eggman. Like, I just don't know what you do. Like, I completely agree that as far as human characters go, Jim Carrey Robotnik is the only one that feels like he should be there.
And it probably helps that Jim Carrey is clearly improvising a lot of his stuff.
Yeah,
he's having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
To be fair, all the performances in this movie are good, but you are constantly like counting down the moments to be like, okay, how long until, you know, Robotnik starts going off on another of his Brendan Lee Mulligan rants and just completely tearing people down.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm here for Sonic, but I'm staying for Eggman.
Exactly.
But that's kind of the frustrating thing, because you're right. In the second movie, he's not as funny, but it's still like Jim Carrey performing. So at the very least, it's like the jokes might not be great, but the performance is still there.
Yep.
I think Agent Stone is like,
oh yeah,
really like really good in this movie, sets the tone, a really good Robotnik lackey, but absolutely shines in that second.
Yeah,
for sure.
Lee Madoob, I think is how you say his name, is just really good. And I really like on the commentary, like, how the director compliments him as an actor for, like, basically getting told, like, yeah, you are co-starring Jim Carrey. You are going to be in almost every scene that he is in. Good luck. And that he really did a good job, you know, playing with his ad libs. I think even the scene where they find the biker bar right after Tom and Sonic leave, I think talked about what is he like? He turns around and pops Agent Stone on the nose or
right
something.
In the throat or something.
Oh yeah, that was slightly improvised, and he just rolled with it.
Well, you've got this giant personality, like, ever since the 90s, Jim Carrey, who, like, we know him for being so fluid and so, like, funny loud and stuff like that. And
a rubber man.
Yeah. And then you, like, for Agent Stone, I think the last name fits because he has to be like the straightest of straight men to be able to balance it out and to be able to
there's nothing straight about Agent Stone.
Yeah. But in comedy terms, the straight man.
Yes.
But like I made notes throughout my viewing of the movie where, like, Agent Stone he, like we were saying, like, he does, like, the best job of making Robotnik Jim Carrey shine. Like, one scene where I think it's at the house when Robotnik first, like, does his government invading of Martin's house, and like, he just grabs Agent Stone by the jaw and pulls him in.
Oh, yep. I think that was another one.
And then, like, another scene later on Robotnik's, like, admittedly kind of cool looking truck, where he's frustrated at Agent Stone and doesn't lift a hand against him, but he says, "Pin yourself to the wall." And so Stone puts a hand around his own throat and pins himself against the wall.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I still laugh every time I see Lee Madoob in this, because knowing what the first thing I ever saw him in was.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I forgot about that. The Pokemon.
The Poke
fan film.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the most disgusting Pikachu I've ever seen.
Yeah, a lot of silly jokes that other characters in this movie say that fall flat, like, work between Robotnik and Agent Stone. Like, the Austrian goat milk latte, like, always gets a chuckle out of me just because the way they play it. Yeah. It's a goofy line that could be really flat, and they just make it work. So. Two human characters I'm okay with in this movie.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I thought I was going to hate a lot of the human characters, but all things considered, Tom and Maddie are all right. Like, maybe a little bland, but I feel like they could be so much more obnoxious. And
I mean, considering that Tom is a cop, could have done it so much worse. And boy, does he idealize being a cop as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I mean, okay, I'm not going to be the annoying leftist and talk about, ACAB includes Donut Lord, but I've realized that it definitely is just easy screenwriting to like, oh, you have a guy who wants to be a hero. Well, what's the easiest way to do that? It's like, well, he's a police officer who serves his community, and you know, hey, it's a movie, so he's the best kind of cop, one that doesn't actually exist. So, no. Anyway, like, I remember when I first saw this movie, yeah, being the cynical political side of me was chuckling that, like, oh, Tom doesn't actually do anything a cop does. He serves his community like a social worker. And then the only other cop in the movie is Wade, who's a moron, and then the U.S. government, who is incredibly violent and incompetent by sicking Robotnik on them. Do I think they did that on purpose? Of course not. But
all I'm saying is that Green Hills, law enforcement is two people. One of them almost shot Robotnik in the head, and it sure wasn't Tom.
Say what you will about Wade, but he is a Deadeye.
Yeah. He could have ended that movie 10 minutes early.
But then we wouldn't have a sequel.
And we wouldn't have Wade going, "The flames of disaster." My favorite scene in that whole series.
His best Silver the Hedgehog voice.
Also, because we are a Sonic podcast, we do have to point out Gary Chalk.
Yay!
Yeah.
Speaking of the U.S. government.
For like, what, 1 or 2 lines does he have? Like in that?
Barely any, but it's like, it's just nice that he's there. I realize he's not there because he was Grounder. He's there because it's filmed in Vancouver and they have a shot they need a shot of like military officials. So the Gary Chalk
he was there because he was Robotnik in Sonic Underground.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, one thing I do want to talk about with Sonic, because I don't think we've talked about it much, the characterization for Sonic in this movie.
Yeah.
It's different.
He's
a little
baby.
It is very different. And a lot of people, I think, heard, oh, Ben Schwartz, that's an interesting pick. And yeah, it sure was, because, yeah.
It's a Ben Schwartz character.
It really is. If you've seen him in any other show or movie, yeah.
It's frustrating.
I mean, he himself on the commentary, like fully owns up to that he is not playing a version of the character that is exactly like the games. I think he even pays lip service to like other English voice actors that have played it, that he, was like, that is part of the movie they did. They knew it was going to be different, like from the beginning. And I feel like we've said it a bunch already, whether that's good or not is kind of in the eye of the beholder. But this Sonic it's so different, but they do establish that he's, I feel like they at least establish why he's different.
Yeah.
That this Sonic reads like very young. Like, Sonic is a forever teen. In fact, like now Sega themselves have like done away with any official ages. He's no longer 15, 16. He's just Sonic.
Which I think is the
but
right
this
move.
one feels like super young.
Yeah, this is the first version of Sonic that I feel like actually is a teen.
Well, he's not. He's not like Game Sonic, because at no point during the movie does he click his nose with his thumb and go.
I knew it was coming.
An important character trait of Sonic the Hedgehog in the video game. No.
I was going to say, in that regard, so Ben Schwartz, like the characterization they give for Sonic in this movie isn't bad necessarily, but it really does lack all of the features that sort of made Sonic kind of cool when we were kids. And I think that kind of sucks. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh, there's Mario, and he's this little mustache dude, and he bounces on stuff. But then there's Sonic. He taps his foot and looks at the screen if you leave him there too long. Mm-hmm. He's always got that grin. There's nothing like that in the movie. There's no grin. There's no I'm too cool for this. Or it's like, man, I don't want to wait. No, it's like he's just, he does kind of feel like a little kid. But problem is, he's voiced by Ben Schwartz. So he doesn't feel like a little kid to me. He just feels like an insecure little dude. He just feels like he feels like a guy, this like little guy who's like, I don't know, I don't believe in myself. And it's like, this kind of sucks. Because
the confidence that Sonic is famous for is not there.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, that confidence is actually a part of what makes Sonic Sonic.
I know this is how they wanted to make a story about him, like him change. Like, I guess it was just a stock story of here is this little guy who's lonely, but then he gets a family, and it's fine for what it is, but it ain't Sonic as well.
I guess the idea is more that they want to show him like learning to like gain that confidence, but it does make for a very like sharp contrast to what we know as Sonic going in. And, to be fair, also, Sonic's whole thing is that he's supposed to be cool, but what's cool has changed in the time since 1991. So, and that's part of the reason why Sonic's characterization is so hotly, debated among people, as we've talked about in a previous episode.
Oh, God, yeah, true.
So what you're saying is wokeness has ruined Sonic.
Sonic can't be cool anymore.
Yeah,
because of woke.
Because of woke.
Dr. Eggman, acclaimed feminist.
I was going to say, bring up the point that like, well, that confidence starts to show up in the second movie and even the very brief, 5 minutes he's in the Knuckles show. But then I realized that, yeah, but you could have done this in this movie the same way you could have made Robotnik look more like Dr. Eggman in this movie instead of saving it for the sequel or the teaser at the end. But then I remembered that's how every movie ever made is like now. You have to set up a sequel because you got to have a sequel, right? You got to make that infinite money, but that's maybe a little too cynical, but...
Well, I think you're right on the nose.
Yeah.
I gotta flick that nose.
I don't know. I guess they were always counting, at least on this film, doing okay. All my research says they made this, not counting advertising, which you might as well double it there, for like less than $90 million, even with all of the, the changing of the ugly Sonic. So expensive, but not as expensive as a summer blockbuster. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they were always counting on a franchise.
Yeah, it's hard to say because when it comes to Sonic, is it going to do well or is it not? And in that regard, I suppose. Well, I say in that regard a lot. Anyway, in that regard, it does kind of feel like this might have been the only way this movie could have happened. As you said, it's that 4 quadrant. It covers a lot of bases, and it's not badly made. I've said this before. It when it came out, it was one of the best video game movies ever made. Although I'd still watch Detective Pikachu over it.
I really like that one too.
It does a really good job of just being an all right movie with some really funny moments and some cool action. Like, I am happy that, Sonic is fast and he does some cool stuff with his speed. Maybe too much stuff with his speed. I've some criticism.
God, well, yeah.
I'm sorry. I have to say this. Stop giving speedster scenes where it slows everything down to basically just stopping time.
Everyone watched that one scene from X-Men. Was it First Class? Was the Quicksilver? Whatever.
Days of Future Past, I think.
Days of Future Past with Quicksilver.
No, you're right. You're right. It is Days of Future Past. Sorry. Yeah,
they do kind of blend together for me now. Actually,
yeah, you're right. And then they recreate it. But I don't know if better or worse. But then they recreate it again in Apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that is literally the only scene I remember from X-Men Apocalypse, and I was like, oh yeah, one of these again. Yeah. Not as good as the first one.
Yeah. and the best part is the first movie to do that, the first big Hollywood movie to do that, was actually Over the Hedge.
Oh, what? Oh, son of a...
Yeah.
Right. Okay, hold on.
Hedge.
Does that predate the Futurama episode where Fry does it?
You're right. Good point.
This is the podcast now.
Over the Hedge, my God.
Hey, Over the Hedge, underrated classic. I stand that movie.
I saw that in theaters. That was a mainstay in the DVD player at home.
Fucking rocking the suburbs.
Oh gosh. Oh man, you completely lost my train of thought there. I was gonna bring something up.
This was my goal all along.
Over the Hedge pushed it right out my ear. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I do think the fact that, like we said, the pedigree of the production of this movie, Blur Studios, Tim Miller, Jeff Fowler, I really do think, like, even if the CG, especially on Sonic himself, is a little, like you said, you never believe he's there because he's supposed to be a cartoon. I think the composition, like the blending of a lot of the shots, looks really good. Yeah. And I think Blur's really good at that. I think I brought it up on our in another discussion, but their original teaser, like the proof of concept for the first Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie, which is 100% CG short, still looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those artists just know how to like blend stuff together, and the slow motion super fast stuff like in the biker bar fight still looks really solid. It's one of those where if you freeze it, you can tell like, oh, they put that guy's face on a CG thing, but still looks really solid. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I just to echo what you're saying, I really enjoy that scene, and maybe I'm just basic. I do like I do like sometimes when the speedsters like get to like you get like the audience gets to see them slow down. But I like I like the planning of that scene. I like the fact that because like the benefit of it being slowed down is like we as the audience get to see all these little calculations that are happening in Sonic's mind of like how he's going to mess with this person, how he's going to prank this person. And then you get to see it all. Like there's a satisfaction in seeing the planning and then seeing it happen in like the snap of a finger, like right afterward. And like I said, maybe I'm basic. I enjoy that.
I mean, look, it's not that it's cool. It's not that it doesn't look cool or is cool. My big issue with it is that how is Sonic ever hit by anything ever now?
That's a good point. That's fair. Yes.
If you're telling me
they really he's like if he's got those abilities, that's like OP as hell. Like he should not be able to do that, even as Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's like
that's why they also gave him ADD.
Look, if it were a matter of like, oh, he's got if it's supersonic, I would allow that for supersonic one shot, and that maybe that would be cool. But this is regular ass Sonic. It just means that, nope, sorry, I can never believe that anything can ever touch him.
Mm-hmm. That's totally fair, yeah.
I did check, and apparently there was a draft of this movie that ended with supersonic, but they're like, no, it's too soon. Let's save that.
Yeah, you can tell that last sequence.
That was the right call.
I do love what they do with supersonic, by the way, in the second one, where they make him a god. Where he's literally a god. And I'm just like, that's what it should be.
That's awesome.
Knuckles tells him not to hug him because they might explode.
Yeah.
I do think it's... I don't want to say weird. It's just, I guess, a little silly. Okay, let me bring up my extra homework I did for this episode was I read the junior novelization of the Sonic movie, which...
Oh, those are always so fun. I always love the novelizations of adaptation, like movie adaptations, because a lot of stuff that was an original planning process can make it in there.
Yeah.
The one thing that stood out, I can't remember when this came out. It might have been after the movie because it reads less like an author that got a shooting script so it could come out at the same time, because a lot of the improv lines are in the book. The one thing that's in the book I thought was interesting is that instead of referring to Sonic's power as power, which keeps coming up in this series with Knuckles as well, they literally call it chaos energy. In fact, there's a line that's not in the movie where Sonic is explaining to Eggman, like, hey, this is my home now, I found a family. Also, chaos isn't bad, and I'm not bad, and chaos can't be controlled. And I'm like, hey, Sonic, wait a sec, you just wait 2 more movies, you little scamp. But yeah, very cute book. I mean, perfect for its target audience. I did always also think it was funny that it cuts out Wade, the Olive Garden gun commander, and Rachel and JoJo, and it's just Tom, Maddie, and Crazy Carl, basically.
Gotta keep Crazy
the
Carl
most integral character.
Sonic drawing. And his chainsaw.
I feel like we've talked about that once. That's like the one time I've ever thought a Sonic drawing was ever.
Oh yeah.
The least bit entertaining.
The only funny Sonic joke anyone's ever done.
Yeah.
By the way, Rachel, there's a character worth talking about. She's
way better in the
there to
second
hate
movie.
Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who actually was okay with the wedding scenes in the second movie. But in the first movie, she's just there to tell Maddie to divorce Tom because...
I told you not to marry that white boy cop.
Now, it is... Like, I was watching the deleted scenes. Apparently, Rachel is divorced. So maybe it's just she doesn't trust men.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She
but,
doesn't
I mean,
believe in
she
the
got over that
concept.
pretty fast, apparently. But that's
but that
maybe
also
just
did not
see
end
the
up
man.
working out in the. You know,
Oh god, you're right. Yeah, him and all his mates with their abs.
yeah.
I cannot believe that whole. Oh man, I'm now reminded of the entirety of that side story. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Who could forget Operation Catfish?
Listen, the priest with the taser and the Bible. Come on,
That was great.
Yeah, that was good.
And it's the fact that they are gun agents with badges straight from the Sonic the Hedgehog video game. The absurdity that this goofy side story with our human characters ends up tying into the main plot that would lead to Shadow the Hedgehog being revealed is why I can't hate it. And I've said before, I actually do. I think the scene where Maddie and Rachel take Tails' tiny little JanSport backpack and shoot little zippy laser guns at federal agents is just kind of funny.
Plus, I feel like, I think part of the reason why she's so much better in the second movie is that she actually gets to like have character stuff outside of just, I hate Tom and I will let everyone know it. And like,
Yeah.
you feel a lot more, empathy for her for getting wrapped up in this dumb thing to catch her sister's adopted child. And it's like, yeah, no, I absolutely support you going on a, righteous tear to like bring down the authority figures with a enormous explosion from crashing a golf cart.
Look, all I'm saying is when it comes to sister characters, we could do worse.
Yeah. Oh no. See, I like that actress in Knuckles because I know her from The Righteous Gemstones, where she's basically doing the same character, but it works a little different when you're in a PG Knuckles the Echidna series.
Yeah, no.
Still stab people with a fork, though.
Yeah.
That character. Oh.
Yeah.
Let's just cruise through like other little things we like, final thoughts, and wrap things up.
So I want to prop up the crew a little bit more. I did a little bit of research, and the DP, the director of photography for this movie, is Stephen F. Winden. I looked at his IMDb credits. The most notable things he's worked on is a lot of the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, definitely makes sense. He was also not a DP, but a cinematographer for Star Trek Beyond. And I've never seen it, but he apparently worked on that horror movie years ago called House of Wax. So, I say
I saw that movie.
The one with Paris Hilton, I'm assuming.
And
I remember that.
and I only say that because I want to like give some breadth of like the styles of movies that he's worked on, mostly action, of course. But I say all that because I feel like the camera work in this movie, for the most part, like 90% of it is like serviceable. It's, it is a movie camera work, but I feel like there's like 10-ish% of camera work in the movie that I actually very much enjoy. Like there's a scene on Robotnik's truck where it's the dancing scene, and it starts out upside down, and it does that like rotating thing as he's walking away, where it like rights itself to right side up. And I, just like somebody who does camera work, like in general, and who enjoys really good camera work, I think that's a great move. Some of the shots, like some of the slow-mo shots, whether it's fully CG or whether like there's some practicality to it, it makes my mind think of like, I wonder how they did that, and I would like to learn how to do that. So I want to prop up the crew in that. I think Stephen Winden did a really good job overall as DP for this movie.
Yeah. For sure. And because I am me, I do have to point out that truck prop is actually a reuse of the customized truck they use for Galvatron's alternate mode in Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Oh my god!
Because I'm too deep in the weeds.
My man.
Wow.
I did, if I could end my revisited thoughts on this first movie with one moment that I don't think I caught before that I really like, and I think helps like pave the way for some of the good moments in the second movie, or even the end of this one, where like Maddie and Tom like literally adopt Sonic as like their kid.
Oh, yeah.
It's a scene in the motel after the the biker bar brawl. Sonic's that's where he first eats chili dogs and whatnot. And yes, the scene ends with a fart joke, but there's a cute little moment where Tom sits down with like a little ice pack to put on like his, he got punched in the cheek or something. And at the exact same time, he hands one to Sonic, and Sonic mirrors what Tom does like exactly. And I kind of just went, oh man, that's just like a little kid copying his dad because he thinks his dad is the coolest guy he knows. And accepting this Sonic for what he is, which is a lonely kid who is finding his place in this world that he loves and is curious by, but thought he could never interact with. Like, I don't know. It just warmed the cockles of my cold, dead heart on this rewatch.
Honestly, I just really like how the relationship between Tom and Maddie is portrayed. Like, you see so many of these movies where it's like, the main couple like barely hiding their contempt for one another, and Scott's like, you did what? Now let me explain, or whatever. And it's like, for her part, Maddie is, very understanding for a lot of it. She gets that, a lot of this out of Tom's control. And they even go into like, yeah, no, I took on 2 extra jobs so you could get through veterinary school. And like, I just like seeing, actual positive relationships portrayed on screen, because you don't see that honestly as often as I would like.
That is an interesting point, and I friggin' agree.
Especially in comedy.
Yeah. As a result, they don't really get much story around them as a couple, but, then it's not really about them anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I do like that Maddie is a vet. Like, it kind of gets played when, he brings Sonic to Rachel's apartment, and she's got her little first aid kit. And, my mom was a vet tech, and said we've always had animals. And I was just like, oh, yeah, cool. And also, hey, she's doing that right.
Oh, that's good.
But yes, the fact that they are both, like I said, even if it is like safe, and this feels like so like, well, I'm glad they're actual characters. But, like we said, it seems exceedingly rare, especially in comedies, where the easiest thing is like, oh, a couple that always fights or hates each other.
No, it's true.
Even the weird thing would be like, oh, if they were like fighting and then adopting this hedgehog child brought them closer together. Don't do that.
No.
Don't have a baby to fix your relationship. But yes, I think I like that it's a supportive relationship, and doggone it, I know they're professional actors, but they are acting like there is a real thing there that they are talking to.
They have a lot of chemistry.
They're pretty good at it.
And, it's nice to have a positive heteronormative relationship in films.
Yeah.
And biracial.
Yeah.
So, it's okay that Tom's a cop, so.
Oh, no.
Hey, now, let's not say things we can't take back.
and I guess one last, very, very last point to end on. I am so glad they got Colleen O'Shaughnessy to voice Tails for that post-credit scene, because it meant they locked her in for the sequel. Which she was great in. And also, I kind of wish they had gotten Ugly Sonic far enough along to have an Ugly Tails design, because as far as I know, that does not exist. They have said that it did not get that far, but
people keep sharing the image of that badly taxidermied fox. And they're like, look at this early image of Tails.
Oh, no. That with that adorable voice coming out of it. Oh, no.
Hey, Sonic.
My last bit of trivia from the commentary is Jeff Fowler said Sonic's race car bed in the attic is an explicit reference to the Archie
I
Sonic.
knew it! I knew it!
Good for him.
My bed's a race car. What about yours, Tom? I sleep in a bed with my wife. Sonic movie is not as bad as it could have been, and I think it's okay. And every time I've watched it 4 times now. I don't know why. One of these times for the podcast, I watched it with Jackie, and we had a good time. So, like, usually if I'm like, I enjoyed this because Jackie was there to make me not be a miserable bastard, just sitting there going, oh, it's not the Sonic I knew when I was growing up.
Why isn't he calling Tom Pixel Brain?
I admittedly I have been sort of negative this whole this whole podcast, but that's mostly just because I like talking about, you know, the things that are different, and it's neat to deconstruct it a bit. But I will say again, I do think it is actually a well-made movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of good things to say about it, along with all of my negative. And despite the fact that it is not the Sonic movie that I wanted, nor the Sonic movie that I would have, it's not that. But it's good, it's fun, and it helped pave the way for a better Sonic movie, and maybe even another, even more better Sonic movie. We don't know.
Let's hope so.
I'm hoping Sonic 3 is good. We'll have to see. It has Shadow. That's neat.
It has Keanu. What a dream!
Yes, Keanu, you are a national treasure.
That's the dream, by the way. I wanted that. I wanted that of Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. Ooh. Those were the two names.
We are on the same page.
Those were the two names that we threw out in our Sonic 2 podcast 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad one of our predictions came true.
Keanu is Keanu, or Pattinson's Batman voice would have been amazing. Yeah. And now we've got one of those.
So wait, we're not talking about the Key and Peele movie?
The important thing is, at the end of the day, Sonic fans went to see this movie and they're like, oh my god, it's not shit. They did the whole AVGN bit and they yelled to the heavens that it wasn't awful, so it's the best video game movie ever made at that moment in time.
Honestly, knowing what it could have been, both looking at the original design and the previous attempts at a Sonic movie and everything else, the fact that we got one that was it's okay is a goddamn miracle.
It really is.
I am so glad that it did well enough that we were able to get an even better movie out of it, and what looks to be a really good third movie just based on the little bits we've seen, like the leaked storyboards and stuff.
Yep. Sure seems like the production company lived and learned.
Hanging on the edge of tomorrow.
Sonic.
All right, we got to get you out of here, Scott.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you on. Anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
If anybody's curious about what I do, I actually help run TeamFourStar. We made Dragon Ball Z Abridged, Hellsing Ultimate Abridged, Final Fantasy VII Machine Abridged. We also made a bunch of shorts, Anime and X Minutes, where we funnily, in quotes, run through a season of an anime in about under 10 minutes, mostly, generally. We also have FourStarBento, which is our more personality-based channel, where we talk about a bunch of stuff. I've talked about Sonic in the past, including the first movie and the Knuckles TV show, so you can find those on either of those channels. So thank you all so much for bringing me on.
I will say your best Santa Claus portrayals tier list was missing Sonic the Hedgehog, who canonically becomes Santa Claus at the end of the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog series. So
I'm genuinely sorry. He would have made S tier.
All right.
Okay. S for Sonic.
Yep.
Yep. I want to jump in real quick and definitely recommend people check out your FourStarBento channel, because man, I started watching those videos a couple of years ago, and then y'all started the revisit, the creator commentary for Dragon Ball Z Abridged. And not only is that just a great series, because I mean, y'all get to relive your stuff and talk about the production and like, how you've grown so much, and it's just like encouraging, like, man, it makes me want to create things. But I love y'all's side videos, like the silly ones y'all put out, the tasting all the Oreos, the bisexual Oreos with the crunchy bits. And man, I had saved it in my watch later because I knew it was going to make me cry, but y'all's Pride video from last year, I finally sat down and watched it. It's you, Scott, it's Quinn and Jesse Nowacking, our old buddy, and it's a great video. People should watch it. I'm not going to sit here and work myself up into tears, but I just really enjoyed it. I was glad y'all have quite the audience, and I'm glad y'all would make a video like that at all. Not that I love y'all are very like open about what's not a dorky way to say living your truth. Y'all don't compromise. You're like, no, we're gonna sit down and talk for an hour about gay shit. It's great.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, I really like that channel, and yeah, I'm gonna shout out and say Jesse's still one of my heroes. They fucking rule.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
I cannot wait to bring him back for Topaz if we ever get around to Sonic Adventure 2 abridging.
Oh yeah.
As for the rest of us, you can find me on the various socials at CyberLink420.
You can find me around the internet as GameBuddy, sometimes with a 123.
And you can see me getting mad about Sonic things all across the internet at FAULERRO. That's Faulerro.
Love that jingle. You can find me on the socials as at RockTheJake, and you can find me on Twitch as Mr. RockTheJake.
And you can find me on the socials, KaiserNeko, on basically everything.
Special thanks, as always, to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp, and if it's a Bandcamp Friday, definitely, go pick up an album, show Amy some love. She's great.
Please do.
And be sure to, subscribe, review, share, all that good stuff. Help us spread the podcast around because we love doing it. We want to see it grow, and it means that we can spend more time doing even more ridiculous things.
Hell yeah.
Like if... The more viewers we have, the more excuse we have to do more dumb stuff like that fanfic episode, which
yes,
I can't wait to do that again. But as for next time, I will catch out of the bag. We're doing Knuckles.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember what was 60. Oh yeah, we've been talking about it this whole time. Yeah, Knuckles. It's a weird one.
We have opinions, and you will get to hear about them.
Yes. Tune in for our long form analysis of that very silly show.
But until then, I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
And I'm Scott. And I've been dreaming about pounding his sorry blue butt.
Perfect.
Many people have.
That's very true. This has been The Hill is Always Greener. We'll see you on the other side.